everybody, good morning and welcome to a video in the i3Net interview series. This morning we're meeting with Gavin Teiffel from Quantum Advisory, and they are one of our corporate partners with i3Net. And so Gavin, to start off, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
Yeah, many thanks, Bianca. So my name's Gavin Teiffel and I'm from Quantum Advisory. We're a tax and accounting firm, and we're all about empowering the owners of family businesses to gain control, increase profits and to reduce tax. We have about 400 client groups up and down the south coast, many in the Illawarra and into Sydney as well. Most of those would be in the turnover range of 1.5 through to about 20 million in turnover.
Impressive. Fantastic. Thank you for that overview. And at the moment, we're recording this video. We're in a lockdown for New South Wales, and that includes Wollongong under Greater Sydney. So lockdown has obviously affected many companies in our local area. Would you be able to talk about the effects that you have seen for local companies, those that are quite similar to those in the i3Net network?
Sure. So as always, lockdown always brings the winners and the losers, and we always have that client that was always selling face masks and always selling sanitizer, and of course it's good news for them. Those people are rare, and I think the main thing that we have seen this time is the dramatic impact of building sites having to close. Last time in a lockdown last year, we were able to escape that, and we have many clients who sell product to the construction industry, and they're feeling a pinch now in a way that they weren't before. And many of those have also dealt with major supply chain challenges over the last 12 to 18 months and have had to build up terrific stock to stay ahead of their demand curve. And a lot of those clients are now in a position of having a lot of stock and they can't get it out the door, which is placing immense pressure on cash flow and that sort of thing. The good news though is that the Australian manufacturing sector is still on fire. It's excellent the way it's performed and shows no sign of letting up, and our manufacturing clients are still powering on, and that's excellent to see.
Yeah, it is really excellent to see. And look, in this really challenging and uncertain time, what advice are you giving business owners in lockdown at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Bianca. I think probably the first thing that we're saying is the old expression to fit your own oxygen mask first, where obviously it brings immediate concern as to business and finance, but of course we've got to think about how we're handling this personally, how we're handling it in our families, and family first is what we always say. I'm here with 3 children who are all doing schooling at home, and of course that's a challenge on the home front, challenge to the household. And so, of course, firstly, we've got to keep a positive mindset to support those around us. I think the next area of concern is our team. I think those that have put a concerted effort into taking care of their team members through lockdown, I think that has made a terrific impact as well, to supporting them. And what we saw coming out of lockdown last year was that the business owners who really stayed connected to their team through that period, they were nimble and they were agile and they could move fast. As soon as lockdown lifted, they were straight back into business and firing on all fours, you might say. What was a challenge was where teams became fragmented through the lockdown, and you finished up with businesses trying to open up again, and they had to then go through the process of recruiting staff. I had to go through training exercise with new staff members coming on, and that was a real handbrake to them sort of hitting the ground running again. And of course, since then, the labour market now has become so tight with unemployment so low, which is excellent news for the economy, but makes it very, very difficult for somebody trying to recruit staff to open up. So if some effort goes into keeping the team together through the lockdown period, through whatever means, the return on that investment is great. The next piece of advice would be to look after your customers. We're seeing a lot of clients reporting that customers, in a way they never have been before, they're sort of hungry for the personal touch. They've seen a lot electronically. They've A lot happens by email, a lot by Zoom, but jumping on the phone to key customers can have a profound effect in this environment, where you have a lot of clients saying that they give a good customer a call and they'll talk freely in a way that they probably wouldn't have before. They'll discuss what their plans are, what their outlook is going forward, and it gives insight in a way that you wouldn't have had it before. And then I think the last point is to use this opportunity to work on the things that you don't normally get around to when we're stuck in a whirlwind, you might say. I think like analysing your sustainability, looking at the overall direction of your business, being able to sit back and have a 30,000 foot view, look at your business, look at opportunities, look at new markets, look at threats, maybe in a way that we haven't before. We could have just been going on with the same group of suppliers, you might say, or whatever the case might be. But look at your supply chain, because it's come under so much pressure over the last 18 months, and certainly good to do some research on what other options are out there. And the other thing would be the whole process of budgeting and forecasting. It's another one that we often have clients say just don't have the time to get to it. It is so important, especially in these times, that budgeting and forecasting gets looked at. And what a golden opportunity we have right now to actually sit back and review that. And I think the final one would be looking at education and training and reading and all that kind of thing. Such an opportunity now for self-improvement, and also self-improvement for staff members. We had a client recently who was an electrician, and he was set up in his garage with his computer on Zoom, running like lessons for his apprentices on how to do different things, and actually doing things physically on Zoom and broadcasting that to his team just to keep them trained, which I thought that was excellent.
Isn't it? That's so innovative. That's really amazing. Thank you for those tips. So I really think, just calling your clients is so important, and having those conversations, and people are really looking for those phone calls now and valuing that. So I think that's such an important tip, and definitely the cash flow forecasting, because that just means that businesses can realize, what they do need to be worried about, what they don't need to be worried about. So thank you for those. I think that was incredibly valuable. Talking about cash flow, this is something that I'm finding a little bit overwhelming at the moment. Could you outline for us, and for the R3Net members in particular, what is that support that's available now for business owners in New South Wales? I know it's an evolving situation, but are you able to give a snapshot about what it is and just paint a picture of it? Because I'm personally quite overwhelmed, because the situation keeps evolving.
Sure. Yes, it has been a confusing rollout, if I can put it that way. So the main grants available at this point are through Service New South Wales for businesses, and they are broken there's really two key initiatives. So the first one is the COVID business grant. Now that is a completely one-off payment of $7,500, $10,500, or $15,000, depending on whether your turnover has reduced by up to 30, 50, or 70%. So that's just a straight one-off payment. There's some eligibility criteria for it, which is fairly straightforward. You need to have had an ABN at the 1st of June, wages below of less than 10 million, turnover between 75,000 and 50 million, and obviously the turnover reduction. Now the turnover reduction is between the dates of 26 June 21 and 17th of July 21, when compared to the same period for 2019, 2 years earlier. Now, so that sounds straightforward. In some cases it is, but there's a whole lot of other scenarios. For example, somebody might have bought a business during that 2 year period, might have restructured entities. There's a whole lot of different things that could have happened during that time. And I'm bearing in mind too that we're in the middle of droughts and fires and whatever else at that point. And the only direction as to how to handle those cases where there's not just a straight 2 year comparison is to contact Service New South Wales. So there's kind of a lot about that's still a bit up in the air. but that's what we know at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that covers off the business grant. So it's the one-off payment. The second one, and it's probably the more generous of the two, is the Job Saver initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that works is that it looks at your wages bill
Mm-hmm.
for the period of the last activity statement lodged prior to 26th of June. So for most, that'll either be the March quarter BAS or it'll be the instalment activity statement for the period of May 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Uses that to gauge what your weekly wages are, and then it'll make a payment of 40% of that figure up to a maximum of $10,000 per week. And that payment will just repeat for as long as the lockdown is in place, which we hope is only for the 28th of August.
Mm-hmm.
But once you qualify for that payment will just repeat for that amount, and that's up to a maximum of $10,000 per week. So if you've got a payroll that's 25,000 a week or more, it'll max out at the 10,000 per week.
Sure.
And by that, it'll be at 40%. So that is a few bit of eligibility criteria there as well. You need to have been in business at 1 June. Turnover range between 75,000 up to 250 million. So they've increased that to make that available to a lot more businesses. You need to be able to prove that you've had at least a 30% reduction in turnover. And it's also necessary to maintain the employee headcount that you had at the 13th of July. So what that means is that you can stand a team member down, but you can't terminate them. If you do terminate them, you will lose access to that initiative.
Right.
However, if the employee terminates of their own accord, you do get to retain it. So the idea is to keep that relationship together of the employer and employee while we sort of get through this period. So
sure.
Quite a good initiative. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from it. Just another point on that, the turnover reduction, to measure that, it uses a concept of GST turnover, which is dictated to by how you account for GST on your business activity statement, whether that's by cash received or whether it's done by invoices raised. So there's a few things to think about there.
Yeah, it's quite complex, isn't it? That's why we have experts like you to help us navigate through.
It is. And just on that point, most of the applications for these initiatives require a letter from an accountant to prove and to verify the reduction in turnover, which we're certainly happy to provide for anybody that needs them. We've been doing a lot of them, and it is a necessary part of the process, and it needs to be uploaded to Service New South Wales. There's also another couple of initiatives, payroll tax relief, which isn't exactly a reduction of the amount of payroll tax, but this is a deferral. So the 2021 financial year payroll tax, you've got up until 7th of October to pay that. And same with the July and August 21 payroll tax instalments. They've extended the date of payment back to 7th of October, as well as putting in place some interest-free payment plans as well, which may be a benefit going forward. The other one I just wanted to touch on too is just the initiative that they have for rent, where you've got a landlord who has a tenant, like a commercial tenant who has a business that's under financial pressure. If they grant a reduction to the rent, that can come off their land tax bill. So the state government are picking up the tab on that a bit as well, which I'm sure some landlords will benefit from, because there's a lot of businesses that are doing it tough.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's interesting. I hadn't actually heard of that one, so thank you. And flipping that over now from businesses to individuals, I know there's a lot of support for individuals. Can you go through that as well? That might be important for some of the members to hear as well. Yeah,
sure. So this is the COVID disaster payment, which is administered by Services Australia. So it's a federal initiative, not a state-based one. And broadly, the way that this works is that it makes a payment to an individual if they've lost an amount of work. Now, it's broken into three categories, whether you've lost 8 hours and less than 20 hours a week, whether you've lost a full day, and then whether you've lost more than 20 hours or more for a week. And the payment amounts for that are now either $450 a week or $750 a week. So to paint a picture of that, let's say that you're running a business, you've put your hand up for the COVID grant, and you are also picking up the JobSaver payment. So you've got 40% of that wages bill is being covered, but meanwhile you've got staff members stood down who can access the disaster payment as well. So once again, it keeps some sort of income coming through for those staff members while they're stood down until such times as the lockdown lifts. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
There's also a pandemic leave disaster payment, which applies in more limited circumstances. That more revolves around persons that have to quarantine for a 2-week period. There is a payment for that as well, provided you've had an order to do that.
Sure. Yeah, hopefully our members won't need to be quarantining at the moment. But yeah, it definitely might be something that they'll need to do in the future. Because I guess that it is quite complex at the moment. If our businesses think they are eligible to claim, or maybe they don't think they are, but still are interested to have, to find out more, what is the process? What should people do?
Sure, we're certainly happy to help. If somebody would like to reach out to us, we're more than happy to have a look at the situation and see what they'll be eligible for, what they can put their hand up for, and to help them through the process of getting that. The other option is to go to the New South Wales website and sort of go through it yourselves, or go to the Services Australia website for the initiatives that apply to individuals and navigate through that way and step through the claiming process. But certainly we're always glad to help if anybody's looking for a hand on going through the process.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously something that you've been dealing with with a lot of your clients and have a lot of learnings and through that time, and obviously your experience as well. So I think reaching out to you guys before going through trying to tackle it yourself is a really good idea. So yeah, obviously because you have all of those learnings from all of those clients with all of those different scenarios. So yeah, no, thank you. That's great. And if people do want to get in contact with Quantum Advisory, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, sure. So get in touch with our team. The email address can be used. That's help@qagroup.com.au. Otherwise, certainly if you want to pick up the phone, 1300 700 711 is our number. We'd certainly be glad to help you.
Fantastic. And I'll make sure that I'll put those contact details in the bottom of the video as well, so people can do that. I think this has been such a really great overview. Thank you for your time. I know there's so much in this, and you've really helped the members find out in a really concise and clear way. So thank you for that. One thing as well that we've actually been speaking with offline is looking at cash flow and how we can actually support members in a workshop in that space. So a bit of an early plug, and obviously we need to set a date for that, but in the future we'll be looking at doing a workshop with Quantum Advisory and the i3Net members on cash flow. So that's an exciting project that we've got coming up in the future. So everybody just watch the space for that. So Gavin, look, that's the end of all the questions that I had written down for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that covers it well. I'd like to echo your point about cash flow forecasting. It is so critical. It's not always easy to do, but from what we see of our clients that do it, the peace of mind that it can give of being able to see a problem coming with cash flow, be able to understand what has caused it, and to see how long it's going to last, and above all, to be able to give you a heads up ahead of a crisis coming as to what extra funds may be required, and to have the time to be able to maybe go to a bank or to seek finance ahead of time, knowing how long you're going to need the cash flow assistance for. It just takes so much pressure out of flying blind and suddenly finding that you're out of cash without any understanding of why or how long it's going to be the case for.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, Gavin, thank you for your time this morning. It is amazing to have Quantum Advisory on board with i3Net as a partner. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for your time. And so for everybody watching this video, I'll definitely pop the details to contact the Quantum Advisory team at the end of the video. So thanks again, Gavin. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Bianca.